Did you know that our next moderator could be the fashion icon of the year? But only if you vote for her at pifwa.co.ke. That's pifwa.co.ke. Carol Odera, the editor in chief at CIO Africa, is the one who came up with the most influential women in tech list. This year, CIO traveled across the continent and found some of the biggest, brightest minds in tech. Check them out in our November 2021 issue. Go to www.cioafrica.co/shop to buy a copy and see the kind of women who are maximizing their leadership capacity.
Hi everyone, it's me again. So I'm going to talk to you, the panel. I'm waiting for my panel to show up. But in case you just heard what the voice of God said, why don't you go out and get yourself a copy of CIO Africa, and then you can find out who the 35 most influential women in tech are. These are women from Nigeria, from Kenya, from Ghana, Zimbabwe, as far as you can think. About 10 to 15 countries have been represented. And what these women are accomplishing in tech is absolutely amazing. You really need to read about them. Hi, ladies. Oh my God, someone is at the beach. Aren't you lucky?
Hi, Carol. Yes.
Hi, Carol.
I'm very happy to be here.
Hi, Jodina.
Yes, impressions is everything. So, you know.
So, I have to start with you because there is, when you remember you met Molly when she was writing your article. She said that she thinks that you self-actualize when it comes to your career. Now, self-actualization is the pinnacle of what everybody wants to attain. Do you really think that you're there?
I think she was being very kind and also, ensuring that she got the best out of me. But I think it's a journey. You can never reach. What you always have to aim for is to continuously be learning, continuously be trying to improve yourself, get to know what's happening, get to do new things. And you never put a ceiling on your career because you're not only a woman in tech, you also are a mentor, you're an example. So it's never about a ceiling, it's never about self-actualization, it's all about that continuous, it is continual learning. Carol?
Oh, I like the fact that you say continual learning. Do you think that it is possible that women spend more on shoes and handbags than they do on self-development? That is for both of you.
Women have lots of priorities. And, let's be fair to women sometimes. We have a lot of pressure, both internal, both from society, both external. And sometimes we tend to forget about ourselves and want to project an image that, we are these perfect beings, and then some things go into the back burner. You'll be surprised we are asked to nominate people for training. We forget to put our name on top of the list. You put up everyone else's name, and then you put yours last. So that means that you haven't put yourself first, and so other things would come much later. As for where we spend our money, yes, if you don't think about yourself, as a priority, then just how it's going to determine on how you'll spend your money. So sometimes that does happen, and let's not be too unfair on the women and too harsh, but we are dealing with so much. It's not really our fault. Carol?
Whose fault is it?
I'll just chime in there. When it comes to shoes and bags, with full disclosure, Imelda Marcos is my idol. We can take it from there with her love of shoes. But it's true what she said about women. We always put ourselves on the back burner. And there's actually an article I read in Forbes. It was about the Facebook Chief Operating Officer, Sheryl Sandberg. And she's written this book, Lean In, where in the book she talks about a report she had seen from Hewlett Packard, where they were saying that when they advertise jobs, men apply when they have 60% of the criteria listed on the job requirements. Women only apply when we have 100%, which shows that we're selling ourselves short, and so that whole script of putting ourselves behind everybody else needs to change, and we need to realize we own this space, we can do it, we're as good as anybody else.
You know, I've actually done that myself. I've seen job advertisements and I've just figured I don't have all these qualifications. I don't check every list. So why should I apply? I wouldn't get the job. But it's funny because I didn't check the list of everything that I was supposed to do. My background was in lifestyle and fashion, and now I'm an editor in a tech magazine. But that's because I decided to take the risk. So otherwise, I would have just been left hanging and thinking this could not be my job. I can't possibly do it because I don't have a background in tech. You know.
Exactly. And that's exactly where I'm coming from. My attitude is, what's the worst that can happen? They'll tell you no. It will change your status quo, but you could get a yes, and like you've done, your career has changed trajectory, and look at you now.
I know, right? Hey, Michelle.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. It's good to have you.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
So I'm curious, Michelle, you work with ESET as a marketing manager. When you do trainings, who gets to participate more or who asks for what kind of training?
It's funny you mentioned that because most of the times when the trainings come up, I think Gina is the one who mentioned that you never think of yourself first. You're always like, okay, these are the capacities that we need to build within the team and within the organization. And you rarely look inward at yourself. If you look at your colleagues and you'll say, you know, you need training in this particular angle, or you need to do this, or you need to do that. And you don't even necessarily look at yourself. So more often than not, I'll find myself nominating my colleagues to do the training. And then after, I'm like, okay, maybe I could have benefited. I could have benefited from that training.
Why do you forget yourself, though?
I think it's just human nature where you look at someone and you're like, these are the things you can improve on and help you make yourself better without having critically looked at yourself as well. So you're seeing what other people can do better, but you're not seeing what you need to do better.
Do you all think if we had bigger egos, we probably would put ourselves first more?
I think it's not necessarily an ego thing, but also just looking at yourself and accepting your capability to learn. Because the one thing as you grow older is sometimes we tend to think that we know more, when in actuality, every opportunity is an opportunity to learn.
Hi, Marcy. How are you doing?
Oh, very well, thank you. How are you today?
Okay. So you do leadership training and you do coaching. Do you find that more men come to you for that kind of self-improvement, or is it the same when it comes to women?
Thank you for that question. What I find is in the class, when it's a corporate class, then you'll find we have more women. Then when it's what we call the open class that sponsor themselves to come in and pay for themselves, then we have less women. So it's something of interest now that we are speaking of it. Yeah, but it's something actually I have had to look at. Yeah.
Okay. So all of you ladies, what was your first promotion? Like from the moment you entered your job and then you got promoted, and after how long did this promotion happen? Mudeu, let's start with you.
Wow. I'm thinking back.
It can't be that long ago.
It is. I mean, I've been at this for nearly a quarter of a century, so it's way back. So I'm trying to think my first promotion. Oh, yes. I was moved from I've been doing my pupillage. As a lawyer, when you come back from doing your degree, back in the day, we'd have to do pupillage attached to a law firm and then go to your school of law to qualify for admission to the High Court. So after graduation, I was working in a law firm, and then an opportunity came up. It was actually a topic that's kind of current right now, because yesterday we heard about the bomb blast in Uganda. So in '98, we had the bomb blast in Nairobi, and a lot of Kenyans were injured. A lot of businesses were disrupted. And so an opportunity came up to sue the U.S. government. And I was thinking, who am I? I'm just a young lawyer starting out. Can I team up with these senior lawyers to take on the U.S. government? But I ended up being the assistant coordinator for that project, filed all the cases. So it was from pupillage and being a young lawyer, and suddenly this opportunity presents itself and being thrown into the deep end. But I think it showed me earlier on in my career that when the impossible is thrown at you, you can actually make it possible. You just have to believe in yourself exude confidence even when inside you know nothing, and just work hard and you'll attain it. So I think that was, for me, that was my first jump.
Oh, God. Hey, well, I actually do realize that what you're saying is very true. When it comes to my first promotion, though I can't say it's a promotion, it's more like a series of occurrences that took place, and then I ended up at a particular location. But then when I look back, I realized that I was actually a beneficiary of someone who saw the broken rung and actually promoted me in the first year that I was in journalism. And then that led to another column, which led to another column, which led to another job. I think it's very, very unusual that we hadn't thought this was actually the case when it comes to women in leadership. What was your experience, Georgina? What was your first promotion? Do you remember?
And yes, I remember. I had been working about 3 years and was tired of what I was doing, so I applied for a position in a different department. And my boss then got wind of it. And, classic. He was like, okay, no, we can't let you go. We have actually been thinking about this. I was like, really? So let me see the offer. I told him bumpy cuts a bit and then I will stay. So that's how I got my first promotion, because I tried to leave. I showed interest in another department and they suddenly realized that I have got a lot of value. So subsequently, I think that they became aware that I know my value. So that became the trend. After 2 years, I look out for another department. My boss gets wind, is like, are you comfortable? Is there something else we can do? And that's how I managed to move. Carol, thank you.
Massimo, what was your first promotion?
Yeah, thanks. I started out at the University of Nairobi, and it was an institution where you couldn't get a promotion unless maybe your boss leaves or there's a vacancy. Yeah, so I could say I volunteered for a role. And well, it was a role that was very new. It was not in the university structure, but there was a need. I had studied sign language interpretation, and we had not had at all any student with disabilities, specifically deaf, taking up a program. So my job used to be writing grants for support of students with disabilities. So I thought, let me put a grant for sponsoring deaf students to do master's program. So it was interesting because then there was no interpreter and I volunteered. I said I would volunteer for the, interviews and all that. So when the grant finally came through, I got a job because, well, there was no one else to do it. So I thank God I took the chance, and today we still have that position in the university that was not in existence before. Yeah. So that was my first promotion.
That's amazing. Michelle?
Thank you.
Wow, my first promotion was something that I volunteered to do. A need had arisen within the organization for a fully fledged marketing department. Before, marketing was a one-man show with a lot of third-party suppliers. And it got to a point where we realized, or rather I saw the gap where we needed actual on-hand staff. So I came up with a proposal to the company and I said, okay, we would need, graphic designers, we would need content creators. We don't have to start with a huge team, just one of each. And my proposal was accepted. And then I was offered the opportunity to structure that department. This was about maybe 2.5 years into my role then. And it was an interesting experience. Currently, the department is still existing. They've brought on board 2 more people. So it's good to know that I did something and left an impact in a company that I worked for before.
Cool. So do you all think that if you hadn't gotten that promotion, you probably would not be where you are now? I can see you really thinking about it.
Okay, I think I'll chime in. I think I'm the kind of person who jumps and then doesn't know where I'm going to land. I figure it out as I'm landing because I believe I love challenges. I love thinking out of the box, and even other moves that I have done since then have always been not progressive. It's just taking a huge risk. About 3 years ago, in my mid-40s, decided to go back to school. And my brain was like, you're too old to be studying. But I went and I did an LLM in cybersecurity, counterterrorism, and crisis management. And I would joke that I was the grandmother of the class because half the kids in the class were almost my son's age. But it was a challenge to go try something different. And maybe it did start from the fact that at the beginning I had been thrown into the deep end and I saw I could do it. But I think it also comes down to your nature, because what happens is that as women, we tend to prioritize, like one of the other panelists had said, others before ourselves. And so we put ourselves on the back bench. And then we're also scared of success, you know? We're scared if I go out there, how far will I be able to achieve? If I get to the top, will I be able to cope with the demands, the responsibility? Because there's that home life work balance that we have to manage. So sometimes we find women we don't want to jump into the deep end and get to that C-suite position out of fear of, if I'm told to travel, will I be able to travel when I have the kids? And then we also, I find that we also have this mantra, it's not the right time. Do my friends support me? Do my spouse support me? And we need to put ourselves first. And I think the background I was raised in, I come from a background where I've seen my mother achieve a lot, and she had support from my father as well. And so that showed me that I can go out and be anything I want to be. I just have to put in the work, and so long as it's the right thing, go out and do it.
Is it possible that women just don't want to do these jobs that we keep pushing them into, or maybe we are pushing them too hard? Maybe they really would just prefer to stay in the middle level and not necessarily become CEOs and board members. Could that be a thing?
I don't think that's true for the majority. I think we're all ambitious by nature. We all have certain goals that we want to achieve, and we have a value system that we would like aligned with the goals we want to achieve. I think maybe one of the things that women consider a lot when it comes to these positions is, of course, your value system. Part of growing in your career sometimes needs you to be selfish, to make decisions for you, to put yourself first. But we're not used to thinking that we should be this ambitious, or we should be this overachieving, or we should be this successful. It also comes with the tag, oh, she's too aggressive, she's too forward. And I think this is what acts as a stumbling block, because we naturally tend to put others first. So when we put others first, we tend to think about, what are they thinking about in relation to me? How am I portraying myself? Without necessarily realizing that being ambitious or being this motivated or, seeking achievements, it doesn't make you any different.
Right. I do agree that being selfish can be difficult, especially when family is involved. And I do remember that there was a time I took to task a female leader, and I asked her, why have you never told the young girls that they should look for a supportive husband, or that they should look for a supportive spouse or boyfriend? Because that is also very significant to a career growth. If you don't find a partner who can actually support that, then it pulls you back. In fact, it was Sheryl Sandberg who even said that the best support system she ever had was her husband. Does this actually factor in? Has it factored in for any of you?
Yes, Carol, let me chime in on that. Remember, we are, an outcome of the relationships that we have. And if you have a spouse, he's your best friend, he's the closest person to you, and the one that you'll keep bouncing off ideas. So a supportive spouse will propel you, and equally, non-supportive spouse will also then now make you feel like what Michelle is saying, I can't be selfish, I can't think about myself. They'll kind of make you want to get into a shell. But a supportive husband will, speaking for myself, he always challenges me and tells me, fight for your rights. You actually know all the challenges that women are going through, because sometimes we have a block of challenges that we put for the women in terms of that we've stereotyped what women actually go through, but not really categorized some issues so that we can deal with it point by point. So because they are a factor of a relationship, we stay with these people. The more supportive they are, it will propel you. If they're not supportive, then they'll start instilling doubt in you. You start second guessing yourself. You'll start wondering, am I doing the right thing? Equally, a supportive spouse will trickle down, because we are moms. We have our children. These are some of the things nowadays it's not even like work-life balance. It's a work-life imbalance that we have to now take care of. And with that support, it really works.
I think to add on to what Georgina has said, a supportive spouse it's one of the critical things that will make a difference in your career trajectory. For example, let me use childcare. We're both parents, but you'll find in most instances, technically the parent relationship is unequal. As the mom, you're the one who know they have swimming at, say, 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, or they have this activity on this day at school. And more often than not, you're traveling, you're running trainings, or you're having your events, or you're in the office late, and you need someone who'd be able to step in at any time and to be able to support you even in these instances. When it comes to an unsupportive spouse, sometimes you'll find yourself giving up your dreams or giving up your trajectory because of them. You realize maybe there's an imbalance in the home that you need to maintain. And that way, if you need to maintain the imbalance at home, you're unable to maintain that balance with your work as well. So those are some of the factors that act as a stumbling block, but a supportive spouse will always propel you forward.
All right. Great.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that comment in terms of, spouses, but I also think it's the whole system. It could be the spouse in the case where somebody has a spouse or maybe a boyfriend, but also I have seen women who don't have that, but they have other important people who could then step in. So it could be a mother or a sister or even some employees in the home who could chip in. So one of the examples I give, when I went for my Dale Carnegie certification, my baby was only 8 months, and it was very tough because I had to argue, do I go to the US for 2 months with this baby? And I remember the discussion was, you cannot stop your life for the baby. They are big, they've stopped breastfeeding, move on. And this was my mother and my husband. And it really gave me a lot of support and peace of mind, going all the way and being there away for quite some time and coming back and finding all things working well. So I think I totally agree. If you don't have that support structure, at the back of your mind, you feel guilty because your value as a parent is still being challenged. When you see your children turning out different and you wish you were there, yet you are not, then you'll always have this second, guessing in your mind. But I think, again, having that discussion earlier on, that it's important what I'm doing, the value is adding to the family, and even to the children to see that mothers can also be career women. I think it gives them that encouragement. And ultimately, because we don't go forever, when you come back, you find you're able to pick up and carry on. And I think even now, even listening to Motel, as she speaks of her own mother, it's really a generational transfer because she can say, I saw my mother, so I can take it up. Her daughter will see the same, and on and on. And I think slowly by slowly, then we transform. And one day in the future, it's not a big deal. Whether it's a woman or a man doing something, it's really something accepted at a family level. Yeah, thanks.
Madhu?
Well, I'll be really candid here. At the beginning of my career, I quit a very good job at a central bank. I was the sole advocate for their bank supervision because of an unsupportive husband who is now my ex-husband. But it's because of exactly what Mercy was talking about, that dynamic of I had a young baby. My son at that point in time when I quit the bank was about 6-7 months old. And the work of the bank was really hectic. I wasn't getting support at home. And my ex-husband got a promotion outside the country, which would have meant the family relocating. So at that point in time, I was being told, oh, he can't go alone. You're a young family. It's a woman who keeps the family together. You need to relocate so that your young family can be together. And so, experience gives you wisdom. But at that point, I didn't have the wisdom I have now. So I resigned. I thought I'm doing the best thing for my family. I'm a lawyer. I can practice anywhere. And we relocated down to Mozambique. And when I got there, I was frustrated. I'll be honest, I was frustrated. I was used to being powerful in the workplace, still wanting to be a mom, but you had career growth and career ambitions. And my ex-husband, we got there, and because now I'm a stay-at-home mom initially, the whole relationship dynamic changed. And I kind of lost myself until I found myself, and I was like, hold on, I deserve better. And so anyway, that marriage ended, and I've come back and I've built my career bigger, better, stronger. And I always, when I speak to young women, I tell them, you know what? Find that balance. Believe in your dreams. You do not put your dreams aside for anybody else. And I love what Mercy said. Even if you're a mother for life. Nobody's going to take that away from you. You know, there's that self-guilt we have within ourselves as mothers. But you go build yourself, because your child sees you as this strong woman, this woman who's able to do it. Our daughters will not make the mistakes I made. I came from a family where my father was very supportive of my mother. Yes, I came and made this silly mistake, and I'm hoping the next generation will learn from my mistake and not do the same thing. But yeah, it's important. It's important to pursue your dream, and as women, not to put ourselves on the back bench for the sake of our partners or our children. You know, we only get one chance at this life. Let's make it the best we can do.
Okay, so I would say that it seems from what you guys have talked about, the recap here would be that you basically need a supportive partner because you need a support system, and the support system starts from home. But now, you see, you are all in careers where you do a lot of continuous learning. How would you quantify the continuous learning financially, emotionally, spiritually? How do you get a certain amount of money and then use that and set it apart for your training and think that it is enough? Mercy, you do a lot of training, so you must constantly be upgrading yourself here, because you're the trainer who trains the trainers.
Yeah, for sure, Carol. And I thank God my job requires me to be in constant training. Every Wednesday, actually, I sit with other trainers in the EMEA region, and you have to keep at that. So it's part of the job to keep learning. And I think that's one of the biggest joys for me for this job that I do, because the system allows you to keep on learning. There are podcasts, there are all sorts of learning. So I think the methodology has been very dynamic. It allows us to basically grind that learning as part of every day. Then there is also the job shadowing, or like a mentorship relationship. So we each have a coach. And so, yeah, part of the goal is what are you learning, and basically keeping up to that. So I think the pattern for me has come in, and it's mostly been funded, I should say. I don't think I have, unless it's books I'm buying, sometimes I have had to budget and buy books specifically that I would want to read, or pay for a trip, like to Johannesburg and attend a workshop, which I've sponsored myself. So I think what I find is you have just to, if it's part of your values, like lifelong learning, then it has to be ingrained. But I think there are so many more opportunities now, even for not paid up programs, that somebody can look out and learn. With the online learning now, I think there's just so much available. And even now for the sponsored programs, or even for the ones you can self-sponsor and go on and learn. I also think most companies now have a learning and development department that looks at the career progression of what are we doing, how are we improving our skills. Yeah, and even when we go to pitch, we actually pitch on that. When you go to a corporate organization, you take up that. They actually have a budget and a structure to equip their staff members. And so I think it's good to jump on. And then for every area of life, there are always people who are specialists in that. You could find maybe they're in leadership and maybe personal development, but then you'll find somebody else who's good in parenting or spirituality. So I think we don't stop there. Even things like swimming and hiking or riding bikes, I think now you can learn anything, basically. And I don't think anyone should feel you're too old, or maybe I can't learn. Like I do crocheting during a hobby I've taken up. It was from YouTube, and I just thought with COVID, you're in the house the whole day, what can I do? Let me start experimenting. And so I've become very encouraged. Some people, cook through YouTube, so I think it's a great time for sure. If somebody really wants to learn, there's so many opportunities now. Thanks, Carol.
I have signed up for courses that I haven't done. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So I have courses in Coursera and Udemy, and I have a whole stack of them. I haven't done half of them, and the other half is a little too scary because now I haven't done the first half. And then I have videos on YouTube that I'm going to watch later. It's a lot of information, So if you're training yourself to be a leader, how do you prioritize, by the way? What are the skills you need to look for that you should specifically study for?
Can I chime in, Carol?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, Michelle. I think with everything, you always have to start with a plan. And as for the skills that you need to think about and look into, I think we had the presenter earlier that says, what are your values and what is it that you want to learn? And I always, whenever I'm giving a mentoring session, I always have my mentees or mentees do a SWOT analysis, identify what are their strengths, their weaknesses, and opportunities. But I then tell them, look at what you feel are your strengths, then let's find things that you can do to improve on your strengths. So if you're doing leadership, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Think about what it is you're good at and how you can become better at that, because that's what I feel leadership is about. And they have examples. If you have someone who you admire, who you look up to, look at their trajectory. What is it that they have done? And then pick that up. As you said, there's so much. I have a lot of videos I've saved, but of late, I've been listening to Jim Rohn, and that's one person who has really given me some guidance and trajectory, because his work is timeless. These are things he was telling people in the 30s and 40s, and that's why he's been, a guide, because it seems it's relevant then, it seems it's relevant now. So that means that it is timeless and it's something that one needs to do. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ladies. This is a conversation that could go on. Part of the conversation is also feels like training, if I have to be honest. So thank you so much for your time. It was great having you. And I'm glad that you could show up today and keep showing up at what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you so much. All right.